Hello everyone, welcome to Topper Study, your one-stop solution for all your JEE preparations. So guys, today we are going to discuss about the concept of types, composition and inverse of the function. So good evening everyone. So let us begin the session today guys. Okay, so first we'll talk about the types of function in detail, then we'll discuss about the composition of the function and then let us discuss about the inverse of the function. Okay, now regarding the types of the function, we have different types of function, right? So we have one function, we have onto functions, we have bijective, we have many one, we have into functions. So let us discuss one by one each and every type of function. Now the first one, which is going to be the one function. Now a function is going to be a one function if in the first set any two elements are not going to have the same image in the second set. For example, if you see this Venn diagram, guys, you can clearly observe that 1 is getting related to D, right? 2 is getting related to B, and 3 is getting related to A. And if you observe, no two elements of the first set are having the same image in the second set. So that type of functions in which this condition that no two elements in the first set are going to be having are not going to have the same image in the second set. If it is going to satisfy this condition, that type of functions we call it as a one function. What do we call this functions, everyone? Well, this is simply going to be one functions. I can give you another example. You can see this example, everyone. Let us say two sets are given for you, set A and set B. Let me take in set A the elements 1, 2, 3 and 4. In set B, let me take the elements A, B, C, D and let us say E. Okay. Now let me draw the arrow diagram in this way. Let me start, relating the elements. Let us say 1 is getting related to A, 2 is getting related to B, 3 is getting related to C, 4 is getting related to C. Now when you see the Venn diagram, if you observe here, you can clearly observe that 3 and 4 are having the same image, which is going to be C. Now, will this be a one function? Definitely no, because as I told you, no two elements in the first set should have the same image in the second set. If they're having the same image, then that is not going to be a one function. So in this case, we can conclude that this is not going to be a one function. So I can write down not one function. Now the functions which are not going to be one, what do we call them? Do we have a special name for that? Yes, we do have a special name, and that is going to be the many one function. So the functions which are not going to be one functions, they are simply nothing but many one functions. So in the case of many one functions, what is going to happen? Well, any two elements of the first set, they'll have the same image in the second set. Like this example, 3 and 4 are having the same image in the second set. So we can say that this is going to be representing a many one function, guys. Okay, so in this way you can understand, I hope you have understood the concept of one function as well as the many one function. Now to let us say that in the question a function will be given for you and you have to figure out what is that going to be, a one function or a many one function. So to understand, to prove whether a function is going to be one or not, there are three methods, guys. I'll tell you in a detailed way. We'll discuss it in a detailed way. What are those three methods going to be? The first method will be the algebraic method. The second one is going to be the geometric method. The third one is going to be the calculus method. I'll tell you in detail, what is algebraic method going to be, what is geometric method, and what is calculus method going to be. The first one is algebraic method. Guys, all you have to do is you take f of x is equal to f of y, or else you can also do it in this way. In algebraic method, you take f of x1 to be equal to f of x2. You start with this particular condition, and from this condition you have to exclusively get this particular condition, which is x1 is equal to x2. So when from f of x1 is equal to f of x2, If you're exclusively getting only this condition, which is x1 is equal to x2, then we can say that function which is given is going to be what? It is simply going to be a 1, 1 function. I can take an example for that. Let me take an example. F of x is equal to x. Now, if I'm going to ask you whether this function is going to be a 1, 1 function or not, so what you can do is that by applying the algebraic method, I told you, using the algebraic method, you have to start with this particular condition. F of x1 is equal to f of x2. So f of x1 would be x1, f of x2 is going to be x2. You see, you are exclusively getting the condition x1 is equal to x2 from here. So what does that mean? As I told you, when you take the condition, the initial condition f of x1 is equal to f of x2, and from that, if you're getting exclusively this condition, which is x1 is equal to x2, that simply means this function is going to be the function given, which is f of x equal to x. This is definitely going to be a 1, 1 function, guys. So I hope this is clear for everyone, how to prove whether this function is going to be a 1, 1 function or not. Okay, so that is going to be the algebraic method. The next one is going to be the geometric method. In the case of geometric method, what you have to do, you first draw the graph of f of x, and then you draw a horizontal line and see the number of intersection points, between the horizontal line and the graph of f of x. Okay, if it is going to intersect at only one point, okay, in that case, we can say the function is going to be a 1, 1 function. If it is intersecting at more than one point, it is not going to be a 1, 1 function. The same example you take it here. F of x is equal to x is given, right? So let us say the graph of f of x is equal to x is going to be something like this. We can say that the graph of y is equal to x is a straight line passing through the origin. This is how the graph is going to look like. Okay, now when you draw a horizontal line, this is going to be the horizontal line, guys. Okay, now you can observe the horizontal line and the graph of y is equal to x is going to intersect at only one point. What does that mean? As I told you, if it is going to intersect at only one single point, that simply indicates that the function is going to be a 1, 1 function. So here, through the algebraic method also, we can indicate the same thing. We can conclude the same thing, that the function is simply going to be a 1, 1 function. So I hope this is clear for everyone, the geometric method. And finally, we have the calculus method. In the calculus method, what we need to do, all you have to do is find out f dash of x and see whether f dash of x is greater than or equal to 0, or f dash of x is less than or equal to 0 for all the values of x in the domain of the function. If it is going to satisfy either this condition or this particular condition, we can definitely say that function is going to be a 1, 1 function, guys. So indirectly what I'm telling you is that check whether the function given for you is an increasing function or a decreasing function in the given domain. If it is increasing or decreasing, the function is definitely going to be a 1, 1 function. So for example, you see the same question, y is equal to x is given, right? For example, let us say y is equal to x is given for you. If you differentiate the function, you're going to get dy by dx value to be equal to 1. And can we say dy by dx, which is 1, is always going to be greater than 0, no matter whatever value of x you take. Okay, whatever the domain of f of x is going to be, we can say dy by dx, which is going to be 1, it is always greater than 0. So what does that mean, everyone? We can say this function is an increasing function. So we can say that yes, it is going to be a 1, 1 function. So these are the three methods, guys, through which you can check whether a given function is going to be 1, 1 or not. So I hope the things are clear for everyone till this particular point. Okay, so first method, you have the algebraic method, and then you have the geometric method. In algebraic method, you have to start with f of x1 is equal to f of x2. And from that condition, you have to exclusively prove that x1 is equal to x2. If you're getting exclusively this condition, then it simply means that the function will be 1, 1. In geometric method, draw the graph of f of x, draw the horizontal line. You see at how many points it is intersecting. If it is intersecting at only one point, then that is going to be a 1, 1 function. Or else check whether the function given for you is an increasing function or a decreasing function in the given domain, and accordingly you can conclude whether the function is going to be 1 1 or not. I'll give you another example, guys. You see this example. Let us say a function is given for you, which is f of x is equal to x square. F of x is going to be equivalent to x square. And let us say for this function, it is defined for all the real numbers. Okay, so let us say that this function f maps, it's going to be defined for all the real numbers r tending to r. Okay, now if I want to basically understand, okay, whether this function is going to be a 1 1 function or not, I'll tell you three methods, guys. Through three methods, to any of the three methods, you can get the answer. The first method, what is that going to be? Well, we do have the algebraic method. So in the case of algebraic method, what I told you, you have to start with the condition f of x1 equal to f of x2. So f of x1 would be x1 square, f of x2 would be x2 square. So x1 square is equal to x2 square, which can also be written as x1 square minus x2 square is equal to 0. So from here you can write this as x1 plus x2 into x1 minus x2 to be equal to 0. Right, everyone? So from here you're going to get two conditions. X1 equal to x2 would be one condition. X1 equal to minus x2 would be another condition. Now you might be thinking, sir, we got x1 is equal to x2 condition. So can we say it's 1 1? No. As I told you, when f of x1 is equal to f of x2, when you take this initial condition from here, when you solve it, you have to exclusively get only this condition. You have to get only this condition. You have to not get any other conditions along with it. But in this case, you can clearly observe that along with x1 is equal to x2, you're also getting this condition. So what does that mean? Well, this function is not going to be a 1 1 function. So you can write it down that this function is not going to be f of x is not 1 1 function. So you can prove that through the algebraic method. Now, if you want to do the same thing, if you want to prove the same thing through the graphical method, through the geometric method, you can do it. All you have to do is draw the graph of y is equal to x square, guys. So first, let me take y and x axis in this way, okay? And you draw the graph of y is equal to x square. So y is equal to x square is a parabola. It is going to be in this way. Now, when you draw a horizontal line, you see at how many points the horizontal line is going to intersect the graph? Well, at 2 points. Now, I did mention that if the horizontal line is going to intersect the graph at more than 1 point, will it be a 1 1 function? Definitely no. So from here, we can also conclude that it's not going to be not 1 1, not 1 1 function. Okay, and then third method we do have, which is going to be the calculus method. So when we talk about the calculus method, guys, in the case of calculus method, what you have to do, so when you find the dy by dx, no, x square differentiation is going to be 2x. Now this will be greater than 0, or it's going to be less than 0, or it's going to be equal to 0, depending upon the values of x you take. I mean, if you take x to be greater than 0, dy by dx will be greater than 0. If you take dy x values to be less than 0, dy by dx will be less than 0. If you take x is equal to 0, dy by dx would be equal to 0. So what does that mean is the function dy by dx, okay, is not going to be, I mean, it's not going to be entirely positive, or it's not going to be entirely negative, right? So we can say that will this be a 1 1 function? Because I told you The function is going to be a 1 function only when the dy by dx will be either greater than or equal to 0 or less than or equal to 0. But in this case, we're getting all the three criterias: greater than 0, less than 0, equal to 0 for the domain of the function. So this is not going to be a 1 because x square is not an increasing function, right? In the given domain, x square is neither an increasing function nor a decreasing function. So yeah, definitely we can conclude that it's not going to be a 1 function. So I hope this is clear for everyone, this question. So through this question, this concept should be clear for you. So how to apply, how to check whether a function given for you is going to be a 1 function or not. You can apply the algebraic method, you can go with the graphical method or the calculus method. If you ask me personally, guys, graphical method and the calculus method is actually more useful for you. I mean, it takes lesser time when you compare it with the algebraic method. Okay, so that is going to be related to the concept of 1 function. Now once we are done with the 1 function, I think many one function should be clear. As I told you, that any two elements, if they're having the same image in the second set, I can say that is going to be a many one function. Simple. Now let us talk about this question. The function f of x is given x square plus x, is asking you to check whether it's going to be a many one function or not. Now this is again very simple. Let me do this in a graphical method. Okay, through a graphical method. So through the graphical method, guys, y is equal to x square plus x. It's going to be a parabola, right? So a parabola which is going to be, so you see the function f of x can be taken as x into x plus 1. We can write it in this way. So you can take 0 and this is going to be minus 1. Okay, and the graph which you're going to get is something like this. Whatever the graph you're going to get, you're going to get a parabola, guys, and the parabola is going to be something like this. So this is going to be the graph of the function f of x equal to x square plus x. Now when you draw a horizontal line, you can draw it anywhere. If you draw a horizontal line, you see at how many points it is intersecting. Well, definitely it is intersecting at 2 points. So what does that mean? Will it be a 1 function? No. But is it going to be a many one function? Yes, it's going to be a many one function. So the answer for this one is option A, true. This is going to be a many one function. So I hope this question is also clear for everyone here. Now let me go to the next concept, and that is related to the concept of onto function. Now, in the case of onto functions, what you have to understand is a function is going to be onto when in the second set, each and every element is going to be an image of some elements in the first set. What do you mean by this is that if you see this diagram, guys, you see D is an image of 1, B is an image of 2, C is going to be an image of 3 and 4. That is, all the elements are going to be images of some elements in the first set, right? So if this is the criteria it is getting satisfied, I can say the function is going to be onto. So in a simple language, I can tell you that if range will be equal to codomain, if range and codomain are going to be same, in that case, whatever type of function you're going to get, that is going to be an onto function, everyone. Okay, so I hope this point is clear for you guys. You see this question, which of the following functions are going to be onto? In fact, only one function is given. Okay, so we need to figure out whether this is going to be onto. And again, let me say the function is defined between R to R, from real numbers to real numbers. So to figure this out, whether this is going to be onto or not, what you have to do is that, guys, I'll tell you a method whether to check, I mean, how to check whether a function is going to be onto function. All you have to do is write x in terms of y. If possible, you write x in terms of y. You write x in terms of y. Okay. And then you have to just check for all y belonging to, let us say, the function is given as f maps a tending to b. You just check for all y belongs to b. You see whether x is belonging to a or not. If this is the condition it is satisfying, then that is going to be an onto function. So if you're able to write x in terms of y, do it in this way. Or else you can directly understand this logic that if range will be equal to codomain, the function is definitely going to be an onto function. And guys, one more important thing is that this onto functions and one functions have another name. I'll tell you what is that alternative name which we can use for one function and onto functions, guys. One function is also known as injective. We also denote one functions as injective. Similarly, onto functions are also known as surjective. We also call onto functions to be surjective. Okay, now let us go with this question. Is asking you whether this is going to be onto or not. Okay, so now everyone try to understand. You see, this is given for you, the first set and second set. So according to the function is defined between all the real numbers to real numbers. That is, the domain is all the real numbers. The range is also going to be, I mean, the codomain is also going to be all the real numbers. That is, you can take any value. Inside the first set, you can take 1, 2, 3, 0, -1, -2. You can take any values. In the second set also, you can take any values like 1, 2, 3, 0, -1, -2, -3. You can take any values, guys. Okay. Now, try to understand. If I put x equal to 1, the value which you're going to get is 0. So 1 is going to get related to 0. 2 is also getting related to 0. 3 is also getting related to 0. So from here, I think this point should be clear for you that this is not going to be a 1 function, because you see 1, 2, 3 are having the same image. So is that going to be a 1 function? No, definitely this one is not going to be a 1 function. So because 1 is getting related to 0, 2 is also getting related to 0, and 3 is also getting related to 0. Okay, and for other values of x, whenever you take any other values of x, whatever the values of f of x you're going to get, definitely it would be lying in this particular set. So what does that mean is, I can say in this particular case, range and codomain, they are going to be same. So when range and codomain are going to be same, guys, what does that mean? Well, the function f of x is going to be an onto function. Okay, so I hope this concept is clear for all the students. Now let me go to another concept which is into function. Now a function which is not going to be onto, we call it as an into function. For example, you see y1 is an image of x1, y2 is an image of x2, y3 will be an image of x3 and x4. But when you see y4 element, it is not an image of any element or present in the capital X set. So such type of functions where the range is not equal to codomain, if the range is going to be a subset of codomain, we can call it as into functions, guys. Okay, so now let me go to the next question. You see this question, f of x is given mod x. Will it be an into function? Let us say the function is defined from real numbers to real numbers. Now, how do we decide whether this is going to be an into function or not? Well, let me draw the Venn diagram. You see here. So the Venn diagram, in the Venn diagram, the first set is going to be representing all the real numbers. Second set also, it is representing all the real numbers. So in the first set, you can have -1, -2, -3, 0, 1, 2, 3, so on, all such elements. In the second set also, you can take same, the -1, -2, -3, 0, 1, 2, 3, any such elements. Okay. Now, when you put x is equal to -1, so यहाँ पे the function is given y is equal to f of x is equal to modulus of x. Right, everyone. Now, when you put x is equal to -1 as an input, the output you're going to get is 1, because modulus of -1 is going to be 1. Similarly, modulus of -2, it's going to be 2. Modulus of -3, what is that going to be? Well, it is going to be 3. So in this way, आपको यहाँ पे जो भी output मिलेगा, whatever output you're going to get, the values of y, those are going to be only positive real numbers. So what does that mean? -1, -2, -3, they will not have any pre-images in the first set. Yes or no? -1, -2, -3, and not only -1, -2, -3. You take any negative real number, it's not going to be an image of any element in the first set. So will this be an onto function? No, because in the case of onto domain, I mean the codomain and range, they have to be same. But in this case, range is not equal to codomain. In fact, range is a subset of codomain in this particular case. So what does that mean? Well, this function, which is y is equal to f of x equal to mod x, is not an onto function. It is going to be an into function. So I can say this one here is definitely going to be an into function. So if you see the options, everyone, well, definitely option A is the right answer. That mod x is not an onto, sorry, mod x is not an into function. No, that's not going to be correct. It's going to be false because mod x is definitely an into function. Okay, so I hope this question is clear for everyone, guys. So that is the concept of one, many one, onto, and into. Now let us start discussing about the bijective function. What do you mean by bijective functions in detail? So guys, regarding bijective function, a function which is one as well as onto, we call it as a bijective function. Okay, so what does that mean? Very simple. If you see the Venn diagram, this function, I mean the Venn diagram, the function here is definitely a one function because no two elements in the first set have the same image in the second set. This function is definitely onto because you see every element in the second set is an image of some elements in the first set. I mean, I can say the domain and codomain and range are basically same. So this function is one, this function is onto. So this is definitely going to be a bijective function, guys. Okay, so I hope this is clear for you. Now, for example, let us say this question is given. Let us say yahan pe the function is going to be defined in this way. Let us say the function is defined between -1 to 1 to -1 to 1. This is, I'm going to take the domain and this is going to be the codomain. Now the function is given for you x into mod x. It's asking you whether is this going to be a bijective function. So how do we know this, everyone? Very simple. First try to analyze the question. F of x is given x into mod x, right? Now we do know that modulus of x is going to be either positive x or negative x depending upon the values of x which you take. So if you take x to be greater than or equal to 0, you'll get x into x, that is x square. If you take x to be less than 0, you get x into minus x, and that is going to give you minus x square. So from here, if you draw the diagram, okay, let us say that if you're going to draw the diagram, this is how the graph is going to look like, guys. You see here, everyone. So from here, y is equal to x square. This is the graph you're going to get for y is equal to x square. And I'm only drawing it for x greater than or equal to 0, because for x less than 0 you have to draw the graph of y equal to minus x square, which is going to look something like this, right? Now from the diagram it's pretty much clear for you that if you draw a horizontal line something like this, at how many points it is going to intersect, at how many points this horizontal line will intersect the graph of this function? Well, definitely at only one point. So what does that mean, guys? Will this be a one function? Yes, definitely. This one, the function f of x, is going to be a one function. No problem in this case. Okay, so the function f of x is definitely going to be a one function. Okay, now let us understand the second part. Is it going to be onto? So how do you check that, everyone? Well, very simple. So this is going to be related to the one. Now the second part of the question is it going to be an onto function? Well, for that, try to understand, guys. If you take the Venn diagram, so as I told you, this is the first set and this is going to be the second set. In the first set, you can take any value. I mean, let us say this is set A and set B. Set A is -1 to 1. So you can take any value between -1 to 1. Set B, again, you can take any value between -1 to 1. Now, according to the function, according to this particular function, guys, if you take any value of x greater than or equal to 0. Let us say यहाँ पे 0 और यहाँ पे 0. If you take any value of x greater than or equal to 0, the function का जो भी value मिलेगा आपको, that is also going to be positive because it's positive x square. So I can say that if you take any value between 0 to 1, आपको जो भी images मिलेगा, that is also going to lie between 0 to 1 only. And if you take any value between -1 to 0, the images are also going to lie between -1 to 0 because for x less than 0, you have to go with minus x square. So what does that mean? That each and every element of the set B will be an image of some elements of the set A. Yes or no? Yes, we can conclude that. So from here, we can basically conclude that codomain and range are going to be same. We can definitely conclude that codomain and range are going to be same. So what does that mean? Well, this function is also going to be an onto function. Now, if f of x is 1, 1, f of x is going to be onto. So can we say it's going to be bijective? Yes. So we can conclude that the function f of x is simply going to be a bijective function, guys. And if you see the options, guys, yeah, option A is going to be the right answer. That x into mod x is definitely going to be a bijective function. That's going to be true. So I hope this is clear for everyone, guys. Okay, now let us start understanding the concept of number of functions, how to calculate the number of functions. Now let us say in the element, let us say two Venn diagrams are given for you. Let us say this is going to be the Venn diagram, which is going to be x representing the set x, and this is going to be another Venn diagram which is representing the set y. Now in set x there are n elements. Let us say 1, 2, 3, so on. There are going to be n elements. In set y there are going to be m elements. So 1, 2, 3, so on. There are going to be m elements. Now a function is defined between the two sets in this way, f maps extending to y. Now you need to figure out first point for you, how many total number of functions you're going to get. Now total number of functions, we already have discussed it in the previous class. Again, I'll tell you, very simple. You see, one can get related to any element in the set y in how many ways? That can be done in m number of ways. 2, again, it can get related to any element of set y in m number of ways. 3 can also have m number of ways to get related to. In the similar way, nth element, the element n is also having m number of ways. So if you want to calculate the total number of functions, all you have to do is multiply m n number of times, and that would give you m raised to n. That is how you have to calculate the total number of functions. Now, when it comes to one function, now everyone listen to this carefully. If you want to calculate one function, guys, we do already know that what is the concept of one function. No two elements in the first set should have the same image in the second set, right? That is the concept. Now what you have to do is that very simple. Let us say for one you have m choices. That is, one can get related to any element of y, so that can be done in m ways. Now for 2 there are going to be m minus 1 choices, because you see, let us say if 1 is getting related to 1, 2 can't get related to 1, because for the 1 function, as I told you, no two elements should have the same image. So now 2 के पास m minus 1 choices होगा, 3 के पास कितना होगा, m minus 2 choices होगा, and finally यार n के पास एक ही choice होगा. So that means you're going to get m into, I can write down m into, okay, m minus 1. I'm very sorry, यहाँ पे n के पास एक choice नहीं होगा. Okay, it goes like m into m minus 1 into m minus 2 into m minus 3 in this particular way, so on. Okay, now this is basically similar to, I mean, you can relate this concept to the permutations and combination concept. If you have gone through that topic, you can easily relate this concept, guys. Let us say that if m is going to be greater than or equal to n, okay, so what does that mean is, let us say you have n number of places, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on. Let us say you have n number of places, okay, and you have m objects to fill in. So in how many ways you can arrange the m objects in n number of places? Can we say it is going to be mpn ways, guys? So mpn is going to give you the total number of ways in which you can arrange m objects in n places. So similarly, the same concept is applied here. So if you want to calculate the 1 functions, I can say that whenever m is going to be greater than or equal to n, the formula would be mpn, or you can write down mcn into n factorial. It's basically the same thing. Okay, so I hope this is clear for you. And when n is going to be greater than m, the number of 1 functions would be 0. I tell you the reason for that. Like, why are we getting 0 in this particular case, guys? So for example, let us say that you're taking two sets. Okay, let me take another page for you so that you can see everything. So see this everyone, guys. Let us say you're taking two sets in this way, man. Okay, this is going to be your set A and this is going to be your set B. Now let us say set A containing four elements, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The set B is containing only three elements, A, B, C. Now when you do the mapping, you do the mapping in such a way that you have to get a 1 function. So I can do it in this way: 1 to A, 2 to B, and 3 to C. Now when it comes to 4, you have to do the mapping with any of the three elements. You can't leave it, right? You can't leave the 4 like this, because for a function, we do know that each and every element should have an image. Okay. Now for 4, it can get mapped to either A or B or C. So let us say if you're mapping the 4 to C, in that case, will that be a 1 function? No, it's not going to be a 1 function. So what does that mean is very simple, guys. If the first set is containing n elements, the second set is containing m elements, and if n is going to be greater than m, and in that case, we can say the number of 1 functions is simply going to be 0. If you want to calculate the number of 1 functions when the first set is containing more elements, when you compare with the second set, the number of 1 functions is simply going to be 0. So I hope this is clear for everyone. Okay. Then you have the concept of onto functions. Now for the onto function, when m is going to be equal to n, m factorial will give you the onto functions, number of onto functions. And when m is greater than n, number of onto functions are going to be 0. I'll give you an example to make you understand the similar type of concept. You see here, again, let us say this is going to be your set A and this will be your set B. Now, everyone, let me take the elements in such a way that the first set will have lesser elements when you compare with the second set. So let us say set A is containing 3 elements, set B is containing 4 elements. Now, when you do the mapping, okay, you do the mapping in such a way that you try to get an onto function. Will that be possible? Let us see that. So 1 is getting related to A, 2 is getting related to B, 3 is getting related to C. Now still D is remaining, and we do know for onto function, every element of the codomain should be in the range. So what does that mean? Now you might say, sir, relate this D to any element in the first set. If I do that, let us say I'm relating D to the element 3. If I do that, in that case, this will not remain as a function, because you see 3 is having more than one images. And as I told you, for function, each and every element of the first set should have a unique image in the second set. But यहाँ पे देखो 3 is having more than one images, it's having two images. So this will not be a function. So I can say that it's not going to be possible. We can say whenever the second set is going to contain more elements than the first set, in that case, the number of onto functions is simply going to be 0, guys. So remember this, everyone. These are the things which are very important for your examination. Okay, questions are going to be framed on the number of functions. So I hope this concept is clear for you. And finally, if you want to calculate the constant functions, तो कांस्टेंट फंक्शन का मतलब क्या होगा? whatever might be the input, the output is always going to be same. That is the constant function. Now, if you see here, guys, if you take the input as either 1, 2, 3, or any number, okay, the output can be either 1, or it can be 2, or it can be 3, or it can be m. I mean 1, 2, 3, 4. It can be any of those m elements. So how many number of constant functions you are going to get? It is simply nothing but m. So I can say number of constant functions is simply nothing but the number of elements that are going to be present in the second set. So this way, this is going to be the concept of calculating the number of functions. So according to the given question, if you want to find out the total number of functions or one functions or onto functions or constant functions, this is how you can do it, guys. Okay, so if you want to remember the formula, do remember the formula, or else remember the technique. I told you the technique through which we have proved each and every formula. You apply the technique, you're going to get the answers. Okay, so let me do one thing, guys. Let me do this question for you. In this question, I'm not going to apply the formula. In fact, let me apply the technique only so that you'll get to know how to apply the technique and get the answer. So for example, you see this question. So in this question, it is clearly given that the set X and set Y are given for you. So let me take two Venn diagrams for you in this way. So this is going to be the Venn diagram representing the set X. Another Venn diagram representing the set Y. Now when the set X, the elements are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In set Y, the elements are A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay, now to calculate the total number of functions, you do know the logic that for the total number of functions, I told you that for the question number A, well, 1, it can get related to any element of y in how many ways? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this can be done in 6 ways. This can be related in 6 ways. This can also be related in 6 ways. This can be related in 6 ways. This can be related in 6 ways. The total number of functions is going to be 6, which is repeating 5 number of times. So total number of functions is simply going to be 6 raised to 5. That is going to be the answer. Now question number B. How many number of one functions you're going to get in this case, guys? Very simple. To calculate the one functions, imagine like this. Let us say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are going to be the positions. In these 5 positions, you have to fill up 6 objects. You have to arrange 6 objects. In how many ways you can do that? So if you're taking, so the first position can be filled up in 6 ways. Second position can be filled up in 5 ways. Third position can be filled up in 4 ways. Fourth position in 3 ways. Fifth position in 2 ways. So if you want to calculate the total number of ways, the total number of arrangements, it is simply 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2, and that is simply 6 factorial, which is going to indicate the number of one functions. So to calculate the number of one functions, just relate this concept to calculating the permutations where repetition is not allowed. How do you calculate the permutations, guys? How do you calculate NPR? Just apply that concept. You can easily find out the number of functions. So if you want to calculate the next part of the question, if you want to calculate the many one functions, no. So as I told you, many one functions are simply nothing but the functions which are not one. So what you can do in this particular case is that from the total number of functions, which is 6 raised to 5, if you remove the number of one functions, which is 6 factorial, whatever the functions that are going to be remaining, those are going to be many one functions. So I hope this point is clear for everyone. Now the question number D, how many number of onto functions you're going to get? One thing is that you can clearly see the second set is having more elements than the first set. In such a case, how many number of onto functions you're going to get? Well, number of onto functions in such a case is simply going to be 0, because I told you, in fact, we have done an example. You see, whenever the second set is containing more elements than the first set, there are onto functions are not going to be possible in that case. So it's going to be 0. यहाँ पे भी number of onto functions is going to be 0. And the next one, how many number of into functions you're going to get in this case? So यार यहाँ पे if you want to calculate the number of, let me just give me just 1 minute guys here. If you want to calculate the number of into functions, it is simply going to be the total number of functions minus the number of onto functions. So the answer is going to be 6 raised to 5. And finally, you have the constant functions, guys. If you want to calculate the total number of constant functions, I told you that whatever the number of elements are there in the second set, that will be the total number of constant functions. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 elements in the second set. So number of constant functions is also going to be 6, and that is going to be the answer. So understood this question, everyone? So see, in this question, we have not applied any formula. Okay, I'm just telling you the answers. We got the solutions just through the basic concept of calculating the total number of functions, the number of one, number of onto, many one, into, and constant functions. So I hope this concept is clear for you. So these are going to be the concepts which are important, related to the types of functions, guys. Now let us start understanding the concept of composite function in detail. Okay, so what do you mean by composite function and all that stuff? So the first thing for you, G circle f of x is given, okay, which is going to be G of f of x. Now, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by G circle f of x? What do you mean by G of f of x, guys? Very simple. Let us say you're having three sets ABC, in which the function f is going to be defined between a and b, in which the function f is going to be defined between a and b. The function g is going to be defined between b and c. Okay, function f being defined between a and b, function g is defined between b and c. Now, if you want to find the composition of both the functions, remember the first important logic, that the codomain of the function f should be equal to the domain of the function g. You see, the set B is basically a common one between f and g. I mean, B is going to be the codomain of f, and the same B is also the domain of g. So that is one important logic which you have to understand. So when codomain of s, if f is going to be equivalent to domain of g, in that case, composition of f and g is going to be possible. In that case, G circle f of x is going to be possible. And this is how G circle f of x is going to be. So basically, हमने यहाँ पे क्या किया? One is getting related to one, and again one is getting related to two. So in case of the function f, one is getting related to one. In case of the function g, one is getting related to two. In case of G circle f, one will get related to 2 directly. The same thing you can understand for the other elements also. So to understand this like a machine, like I already told you, there are two ways of understanding the function. One through the Venn diagrams through this particular method. Another way is through the machine. So if you want to understand the composite function through the machine, no guys, you can actually understand it in this way. So let me take two machines for you. Okay, let me take two machines one after the other in this particular way. Now let us say that you have taken x as an input. Okay, you have taken x as input, and let us say the first function, which was the first machine which you have, it is going to be f of x. So whatever the output you're going to get, this is going to be f of x, guys. The second machine which you have, let us say it's going to be g of x. Now what is going to happen is, now this output which you got from machine number one will go to machine number two as an input. So whatever result you're going to get, that will be g of f of x. And you see, g of f of x is simply nothing but the composition of the functions f and g. This can also be represented by g circle f of x, guys. Okay, so g circle f of x is simply nothing but g of f of x. So I can give you an example for this. For example, let us say you have y is equal to sine of x square. Now this one is going to be a composite function. It's going to be a composition of two functions, sin x and x square. I mean, if you take, let us say, if you take x square to be g of x, and if you take sin x to be f of x, if you find f of g of x, you see, if you're going to find f of g of x, then only you're going to get sine of x square. Yes or no? In place of g of x, if you put x square, then f of x square will give you sine of x square. So in this way, you can understand the concept of composition of the functions, guys. Now let me do one thing. Let me do a question for you. आप लोग ये वाले question देखो. In fact, this is a previous year JE question, guys. Okay. So everyone concentrate here. Let us see how to do this question. Now in this question, the function g of x is given for you. G of x is given 1 plus x minus step x. And f of x is defined in this way. It is defined as -1, 0 and 1 when x is less than 0, when x is equal to 0 and when x is greater than 0. It's like a signum function. Okay. Now when we understand, when we basically analyze the function g of x, well, g of x is going to be something like this. 1 plus, we do know x minus step x is going to be fractional part of x, right? Now from here हमें तो ये पता है कि regarding g of x equal to 1 plus fractional part of x, we do know that fractional part का जो भी value से it always lies between 0 to 1. So what does that simply mean is g of x का जो भी value होगा, it is always going to be greater than or equal to 1. Can we say that? Because fractional part cannot be negative, it's going to lie between 0 to 1. g of x का जो भी आपको value निकल के आएगा यहाँ पे, it's always going to be greater than or equal to 1. So what does that simply indicate? When we want to figure out what is f of g of x going to be, we do know that f of g of x, where g of x is always going to be greater than or equal to 1. Now you tell me, when x is always going to be greater than or equal to 1, what is f of x value going to be? Well, according to how the function f of x is defined, it should be basically 1. Because you see, for any value of x greater than 0, the function will take the result as 1 only. So when f is going to be, when f of greater than or equal to 1 hoga, the value which you're going to get is definitely going to be 1, and this is going to be the solution. So understood everyone the concept? Anyone is having any doubt in this question? So in this question, first we need to figure out that what is g of x going to be. So g of x is going to take any value greater than or equal to 1. Now when it comes to f of g of x, so we need to figure out f of any value greater than or equal to 1, and according to how the function is defined, f of x, it would be equal to 1. So I hope this entire question is clear for everyone, guys. Now let me start discussing few properties which are related to this composite function. Guys, remember that if f and g both are going to be injective, g circle f is also going to be injective. If f and g both are going to be surjective, that is onto, g circle f is also going to be onto. And if f and g both are going to be bijective, g circle f is also going to be bijective. Okay, so this property is going to be important for you. And then you also have this property, head circle g circle f of x karo ya head circle g circle f of x karo, the result is basically going to be the same. Okay, but remember, f circle g and g circle f need not to be same. If you find f circle g, well, f circle g is not going to be equivalent to g circle f, guys. Okay, now let us start understanding the concept of inverse function. So that was about the composite function. Now let us understand the concept of inverse function in detail. Now regarding the inverse function, everyone try to understand. यार inverse function में क्या होगा कि first thing you have to understand कि function bijective होना चाहिए. If the function is going to be bijective, then only the inverse is going to exist. तो inverse function का मतलब क्या होगा? Very simple. Let us say a function is defined in this way, f maps a tending to b. For the inverse of this function, The domain will become the range will become the domain. So I can say f inverse is going to be defined between B to A. So for example, you can see here, so x is domain of f and y is domain range of f. Now for f inverse kya hoga? This x will become range and y is going to become the domain. So this is going to be a very simple definition for the inverse of the function. Now how do we calculate the inverse of the function? Everyone, let me give you an example to make you understand, like how do we calculate, how do we find the inverse of any function given for you. Now for that, what you can do is, let us say that यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हैं f maps 1 to infinity tending to 2 to infinity is given. So this will be your domain and this is going to be the range of the function. And the function given for you, f of x, is given as x plus 1 by x. It's already given for you in the question that assume it's going to be bijective. You tell me what will be the inverse in this particular case. To find the inverse of the function, guys, the first step would be write x in terms of y. So how do we do that? Very simple, you see, x square plus 1 equal to xy. If you cross multiply, I'm going to get x square minus xy plus 1 is equal to 0. This is what you're going to get. Now, from here, what you can do is that you can basically apply the quadratic formula. You can say this is going to be a quadratic equation in terms of x. If you apply the quadratic formula, x will be minus b, y plus or minus under root of b square, y square minus of 4ac, so minus 4 divided by 2a. So this is what you're going to get. So from here, it's pretty much clear that we have written x in terms of y. So guys, what does that mean is very simple. So if you take f of x is equal to y, so x is going to be equal to f inverse of y. So in place of x, we can write down f inverse of y to be equivalent to y plus or minus under root of y square minus 4 divided by 2. So this is going to be the inverse of the function. And specifically, if you see, because the domain, you see the domain is going to be 1 to infinity and the range is also 2 to infinity. We have taken only positive real numbers in the range. You would only take positive. Okay, so from here, I can write down f inverse of y is going to be y plus under root of y square minus 4 divided by 2. You have taken only the positive sign यहाँ पे, क्योंकि यहाँ पे if you observe the range, it is only between 2 to infinity. All positive numbers are there. So that is the case. That is the reason why I have taken only positive यहाँ पे. Okay. Now this is f inverse of y. If you want to write in terms of x, you can do that. In fact, if you want to find out f inverse of x now, all you have to do is replace y by x. So you're going to get x plus under root of x square minus 4 divided by 2, and that is going to be the solution. So I hope this question is clear for everyone. Okay, so in this question, whenever we need to figure out what is going to be the inverse of the function f of x, all you have to do is first write x in terms of y, then apply this simple condition, ye wala condition, this particular simple condition, guys. Okay, so from here you can find out f inverse of y. If you want to find out f inverse of x, all you have to do is replace y by x. You can easily figure out what is f inverse of x going to be. Okay, so I hope this question is clear for all the students. Now let me go through few properties of this functions, of this inverse of the function. Remember, inverse of the function is always going to be unique. Okay, I mean, if inverse of a function is going to exist, it's always going to be unique. If you find f inverse of inverse, it's always going to be f. Then if f and g are going to be invertible, remember guys, G circle F whole inverse will be F inverse circle G inverse. And then you have this property, if F and G are going to be inverse to each other, then you find F circle G or G circle F, both are going to be identity functions. Okay, so both you're going to get it as identity functions. That is the next property. And then always remember that f of x and f inverse of x, they are always going to be symmetric about y is equal to x line. When you draw the graph of f of x and f inverse of x, they are definitely going to be symmetric about the line y equal to x. For example, you see here, guys, y is equal to x square and y is equal to root x. Actually, these two functions are going to be inverse to each other. And if you observe the graph, no, see, about the line y is equal to x, they are going to be symmetric. Yes or no? You see, about the line y is equal to x. This is the graph of y is equal to x square, and you see this is the graph of y is equal to root x, and clearly they are symmetric, guys. So we can say whenever you want to draw the graph of f inverse of x from f of x, just take the symmetric one, apply the concept of symmetric about the line y is equal to x. You can easily figure out what would be the graph of f inverse of x going to be. Okay, so I hope these concepts are clear for everyone. Yeah. Now, what we will do is that let me go to a question for you guys, a previous year question for you. So this question was asked in JEE Main 2019. So let me do this very quickly, guys. So in this question, you can clearly see it's a question on composition. Okay, right? It's a question on composite functions where f1 of x is given. So what is f1 of x given for you in the question? It is given 1 by x. f2 of x is given, which is basically 1 minus x, and f3 of x is given, which is basically 1 by 1 minus x. So what we need to do here is we need to figure out what is g of x, which is going to satisfy this equation, which is f2 circle j circle f1 of x, and that is equal to f3, that is basically equal to f3 of x. Now from here we need to figure out what is this g of x going to be, guys. Very simple. What you'll do is that first apply the concept of composite functions. So this can be written as f2 of j of f1 of x, right? And that is equal to f3 of x is 1 by 1 minus x. Now from here, guys, first things first, f2 of anything. So we do know that f2 of x is 1 minus x. Then f2 of this will be 1 minus j of f1 of x. And that is going to be equivalent to 1 by 1 minus x. Now from here, 1 minus j of, we do know that f1 of x is 1 by x. I'm going to get j of 1 by x to be equal to 1 by 1 minus x. This is what you're going to get. Now from here, guys, j of 1 by x is going to be 1 minus 1 by 1 minus x. I'm going to get minus x divided by 1 minus x, which can also be written as x by 1 minus x. And this is going to give you j of 1 by x. Now from here, if you want to figure out what is g of x going to be, guys, all you have to do is replace 1 by x by x. Okay, so what you have to do here, if you replace, let me write it down for you guys. If you replace, if you're going to replace 1 by x by x, whatever you're going to get the g of x result. If you do so, you're going to get g of x is going to be, so in place of x, you have to replace it by 1 by x. You're going to get 1 by x by 1 minus 1 by x. And if you simplify, that will be 1 by, that is going to be simply 1 divided by, I think yahan pe a small mistake, guys. This is going to be x minus 1, because if I take the negative as a common, it's going to be x minus 1. So here you're going to get 1 by x divided by, it's going to be 1 by x minus 1. So from here, you're going to get 1 divided by 1 minus x. And we do know what is 1 by 1 minus x going to be. Well, it is going to be f3 of x. So therefore, I can tell you that j of x is simply going to be f3 of x. And if you see the options, everyone, option B is going to be the right answer. So understood this question? Anyone is having any doubt in this particular question? So very simple, a very simple question based on the concept of which one? The composite functions, where all you have to do is figure out what is g of x going to be, and the criterias are given for you. Just apply the condition, you are going to get the answer. So I hope this question is clear for everyone. So guys, that's it from today's session. So in today's class, we have discussed about the concept of functions. We have discussed about the concepts of types of function. We have discussed about the concept of which one, the concept of the inverse function, the composite function. We also have done few questions on that. Okay, so guys, if anyone has not joined the Telegram group yet, please do join the Telegram group. You're going to get all the updates related to the live sessions and also any other videos and also exam related notifications. Everything you're going to get in that particular group. So if you can directly, scan this QR code, you can join the group or you can use this link to join the group. And guys, if anyone has not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel, hit the like button and share these videos as much as possible so that all these videos will definitely reach the students who actually require it. Okay, they are these videos are going to be very helpful for all the students who are preparing for JEE examination, for the last minute preparation. All these videos would definitely help them to revise the concepts very quickly and also effectively. So with that, thank you so much everyone. Take care. Let us meet in the next class.